heads or tails, Aaron?
Tails.
And this is for who goes first.
Heads. Well, he already picked, so.
All right, tails. You go first, Aaron.
Okay, so my constitution is voluntarist. I wouldn't call it ANCAP because I don't believe in right-wing dogma. And it is designed to be a non-dogmatic mix of policy that is still market-focused, because I believe markets are the source of the vast majority of our wealth. And it is also decentralized on the local level, strongly adhering to federalism, and it's like the 10th Amendment on steroids. And so instead of everyone fighting each other to agree on one policy or one worldview, every single city, every single location, even every single community within the city can have different governing structures, different policies, different ways of living, and really they just share a military for peace purposes, and they have some courts on the higher level just for dispute resolution, and then there's trade between cities and communities too, but they're not sharing a political system. So you can trade without sharing a political system, which is so important. And I try to build compromise between the culture war and the political war and the left versus right nonsense. And I've also gotten away from the monarchism. I switched to a 6-person executive instead of a 1-person executive. They have the same responsibilities, but it's just 6 people instead of 1 person, and they're elected. So that's one change that's noteworthy. But we're actually running a mock simulation of that system, and so far it's going very, very well. You would be shocked at how efficient it is and how clear seconds. And concise it is. And yeah, that's it. Oh, did you say 30 seconds?
No, I said 15. It ends right now, but you can have another 10 seconds if you'd like.
Yeah, that's a quick summary of things that have changed since we last talked.
All right, Nate, your turn.
Okay. So I have had an interesting political transformation over the years. I mean, I've been a Trump supporter, I've been a classical liberal, I've been a libertarian, I've been a lot of things. But you know what really hit me to really become a leftist in 2020? What really hit me is when I realized that capitalism and the state not only were not doing anything about, COVID and what we saw with George Floyd, it showed me that they benefited from it. In fact, we saw the biggest transfer of wealth in history in our nation under COVID with the SAFE Act, I believe. And on top of that, we got people talking about the state running everything. They don't run everything. It's the capitalists who pay them. It's the capitalists who run the show. And that's why we're going to talk about, just simply why, we have to have a leftist, anarchist type system. And the reason why we have to have that is think about all the societies that are developed right now. They all have mixed markets. They all have agreements. They all have established rights. Under laissez-faire capitalism or anarcho-monarchism, you don't have rights. And you're told that everything's voluntary and that everything's going to go through charity. But I mean, nobody's going to voluntarily go to jail for marijuana for 2 to 4 weeks, nor should they. And what I think we should have is a system where the workers control the economics and the politics of their communities. The days of capitalist and state oppression, of telling us what we can and cannot do, those days should be long gone. It should be the people who make this economy, thus create the society. And I also want to talk about a constitutional direct democracy and how it actually should be implemented rather than what we're talking about under anarcho-monarchism. You can call me a socialist or a communist or whatever. I just like to use the term libertarian communist. As far as unification and how that goes, there's never been any historical evidence of any right-wing movement ever getting a law passed for the workers. That just doesn't happen. They serve the status quo. Everything that we have for the workers is from the blood, sweat, and tears of the people who actually striked, who actually unioned. Who were those people? The workers. But we're all going to get into that, and we just have to talk about why, you really got to get into this left-wing movement and start going to a much more progressive future where life and liberty actually is a right. I'm done.
You still have just a little bit more time, but if you want to end it there, that's totally fine. And I did go over for Aaron just a little bit, but if it's okay with you, I'd like to give Aaron an opportunity to kind of defend his position and rebut some of rebut some of your positions and express some of his concerns as far as anarcho-communism, libertarian socialism, etc.
Okay. I'm all for profit sharing, worker profit sharing, and like having workers having equity in their workplace. But I don't know if they should have 100%. Maybe something like 50 to 65 might be better. And I think capitalism defined as capital having equity in a corporation, right? If you define it as that, I believe there's a small place for capitalism. We have a pie of 100% ownership of business, right? And you can divide that pie accordingly. And in a lot of the models that I've kind of brainstormed, like capital has maybe 20%, and then meritocracy, or workers have like 65 maybe, especially if it's something like a restaurant, you want mostly worker ownership. And then the rest could be meritocracy, which is like the exceptional workers or something of that nature. So, like, the people who really hold down the business, everyone's aware of them at every workplace. So they get an extra bonus, which would be a meritocracy bonus. Or, for example, like at Google, the people who write the actual code would get the meritocracy bonus, and then the people who are like working customer service would be the labor. So I think like this distinction, or that trinity, is a really effective way of looking at a future of, say, like, I don't want to use the word socialist because it has so much like dogma and history behind it, but like a worker-owned future, I think making that distinction would be very, very important. So, but that I think that's separate from the state. It's important to separate the state and the state and business. Like, business operates in its own sphere, and I think that's something that like the USSR and Mao and all of these people, like something that the society goes dreadfully wrong when there's no separation between like business and state. So, because then like the state already has so much power with the ability to arrest, the ability to tax, and we should be focusing on going in the other direction, which is the minimization of state power. And
30 seconds.
That's where I think the direct democracy is so important in my constitution, because then the people have the veto. The people can veto the decisions of the executive directly, and that's the most appropriate use of direct democracy, in my opinion.
Okie dokie. Alrighty. So we'll go with you, Nate. If you'd like to rebut some of those points and just kind of go ahead, you got 3 minutes.
Thank you. So let's talk about the constitutional direct democracy under anarcho-monarchism. One, monarchism is a state ideology. I can't even believe that somebody could even believe that anarchism and monarchism could even exist. I mean, even if you look at the definition of it in the Webster Dictionary, it's talking about a ruler in monarchism. In fact, I believe that's the actual word they have in the definition. And then when you look at anarchy, it says the abolition of government, and government meaning the state. Anarcho-monarchism, also in its direct democracy, can have the tyranny of the majority. I mean, the vote of the majority end up being a tyrannical vote, because there's nothing in this Constitution that establishes the non-aggression principle. There's nothing that establishes you have a right to certain things. You have a right to own a gun, free speech. There's nothing in there. There's just a lot of profit stuff. So what we actually need to do, he talks a lot about markets. Well, yeah, it's true that markets have raised the standard of living. Nobody ever disagreed with that. But markets don't equal capitalism. And what we have seen over the last 250 years is a mixed market system with capitalism. Now, during the Industrial Revolution, what we saw were exactly what Aaron wants, and we're talking about a system where people are going to be working 12 hours a week for 6 days. We're talking about a system where children are going to have to go to work because wages aren't keeping up with production or inflation as it stands right now. If that can't happen under a state, how are we going to do this under a unfettered capitalist system, which again, in 250 years, has never existed? So what socialism wants to do, socialism means when the workers own and control the means of production within society. That's what socialism means. Communism, which I will be advocating for, is a moneyless, classless, and stateless society as defined by Marx. Now, we don't have a ton of examples of stateless socialism and communism, but we have many policies from the Native Americans, from Rojava, Syria, from the CNT FAI, which again, this was all not necessarily a utopian, but I don't really believe in utopian. I think you're foolish to believe that any type of system could be utopian. But we have enough policy where we can pick from multiple societies and multiple different economies where we know for a fact that stateless socialism and stateless democracy can work.
All right. And so now what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of flow into just a regular back and forth. We're going to ask that no one really speaks over one another and gives each other a little bit of an opportunity to respond to any kind of points. If you make a point, please give somebody the opportunity to address that point rather than continuing on to another point. All right. I'll let you start, Aaron, and we'll just go ahead.
Okay, effectively, what's the difference between a council and a monarch, other than the number of people involved?
Well, what you're talking about is, I'm not saying it's an absolute monarch. You're putting in different specific balances of power, but the main problem I have with your constitution is people can be tyrannical. Like, you have, in your world, people can force other people to do things, people can coerce other people to do things. Capitalism is coercion. Capitalism is authoritarianism. It's a top-down system where a small group of people own and control all the means of production. And the life and liberty that the land's resources that people need to sustain their life and liberty, those are privatized. Healthcare is privatized. Education is privatized. And what you have is...
But the workers own the means of production in my system.
What do you mean?
Didn't I show you that contract? It's a corporate contract?
So, okay, but I'm confused. So it's a capitalist system, but the workers own it?
It's mutualist. It's mutualist.
Be more specific.
It's like market socialism, kind of.
Okay, so how would that work?
I just explained it. So, to give you a real quick backstory, there's 3 sections of every corporation. You have the capital section, the meritocracy section, and the worker ownership section. The worker ownership is hourly. It's distribution of ownership and profits. And then the meritocracy is like an election system. So it's like, Steve like really runs the kitchen in this restaurant, so we're going to give Steve 5 meritocracy points, and we're going to have an election to determine how many meritocracy points he gets. But like, I want to give him 5 meritocracy points, so I'm voting for 5. Someone else thinks he earned 10, someone else votes 10, etc., etc. And then capital is pretty much like stocks. So that's the only thing that carries over from our traditional society is the capital section. But it's on a percentage basis. So the capital could be 10%, the meritocracy could be 30%, and then the worker could be 60%. As long as it adds up to that 100% pie, you can adjust those three however you want. And they can't overtake each other. They are restricted to that percentage, which prevents them from like being really combative.
Okay, but where is the monarchy's authority then? Like, you're talking about...
This is a corporation.
Okay, wait, because you're talking about putting people in jail for drugs you don't agree with. You're talking about all this tyrannical stuff. That's going to require force and coercion. Are you really going to tell me somebody's going to voluntarily go to jail for 2 to 4 weeks?
Well, they voluntarily agree to the contract with specific punishments. So, like, if I assault someone, right, the contract says that there are certain penalties I have to face.
Okay, but who are you to tell somebody they can't smoke or do any type of drug you disagree with? That's completely...
They're signing that contract.
Okay, but that's authoritarianism. It doesn't matter
it's not.
what
It's
contract...
opt-in.
No, voluntarism doesn't mean it's liberty. Okay, do you
Okay,
know what the definition?
So let's say I'm looking to join a community, right? And this community says, according to our establishing contract, people cannot do fentanyl in the streets, or people cannot sell fentanyl on the corner. And then someone will say, "Oh, I agree with that policy, so I'm going to sign the contract." And by signing the contract, I'm making an agreement saying, if I do fentanyl or sell fentanyl, I will have criminal penalties.
We're talking about a specific policy where people are going to jail because of drugs you disagree with. How is that not authoritarianism? It doesn't matter what contract you sign. Well, do you know what
it does matter?
Do you know what voluntary means?
Consent matters.
Okay, but do you know what voluntary means?
It means it's voluntary.
It means that free will, right?
You're making a choice, yeah.
Okay, so we're talking about me and you, as Aaron and Nathaniel, as individuals, as libertarians, as anarchists. What type of society where you have a right to live life the way you see fit without any authority restricting you? How does that not contradict the anarcho part in your supposed anarchist system? Because all you're saying is that rules for me, but not for thee. That's exactly what monarchism is, and it's not anarchy.
It's not fully anarcho. The contract brings it out of a state of total anarchy. So
but there's nothing anarchist about it, though.
I'm more of a voluntarist because I don't believe... I guess anarchy is possible, but I don't know if it's preferable. I don't know if it's the ideal. So... it's always good to restrict state power. In that way, I'm libertarian, but I don't know if I'm a full anarchist.
Okay, now so just don't use anarcho then, because
right.
If that's the case, then just say you're a monarchist.
Well, the contract is what restricts the anarchy, because pure anarchy, I think, would devolve into gangs and warlords.
Okay, so why don't you give me some critiques on my ideology then, so you can give me some better explanations then?
Okay, I don't think that moneyless is a good idea. I don't think it'll work. I think there will be shortages, and I think that chronic shortages will be an inevitable part of trying to establish a moneyless system, and people will reject the moneyless system, and you'll have to be authoritarian in essentially telling people that they can't trade and can't use money and can't barter.
I'm arguing. I said I'm an anarcho-communist, but I'm also arguing from a real mutualist society. And what we're talking about is different groups and organizations coming together for mutual aid and defense. Now, you talk about shortages. Shortages happen in capitalism all the time. You say moneyless, classless, and stateless societies can't exist. The Native Americans lived for hundreds of years. Most Native American tribes, if not all of them, held most things in common and were a decentralized planned economy. You have corporations like Walmart and Amazon who use decentralized planning in all of their super centers and all of their warehouses. They use logistics and distribution. And when you put supply and demand into the mix, all you're doing is just distributing goods and services based on demand and supply. There's only four things that can happen under supply and demand. Supply can increase or decrease, or demand can increase or decrease. But that's not something that is inherently under communism or socialism.
So imagine a store, if you will, and then the store allowed shoplifting, as much shoplifting as possible. Do you think there would be shortages in those stores?
What do you mean?
Well, that's a moneyless society, right? It's like essentially allowing shoplifting.
Okay, so this is where we're gonna go with this. No.
If you guys could try to avoid like logical fallacies like strawmans and stuff. Okay.
You know what? Yeah, you're right. We're not going to stoop to their level. Okay. So where did you make that up? Because socialist societies, state or stateless. I mean, you got places like Cuba that have food. Oh, I'm sorry. We're talking about communism. No. What does that have to do with anything? That didn't happen in the Native Americans. They weren't starving. They weren't going broke. So I don't know where you're getting this logical fallacy from.
Well, that's hunter-gatherer on a very small scale.
Yes, and we're talking about decentralization, right? We're talking about different groups and organizations coming together rather than being under one big-ass castle like you want. We're talking about real anarchy. We're talking about a free and open society that makes sure that all 120 industries within that economy are collectivized and owned, controlled by the workers. And money restricts liberty. Because if you don't have money for healthcare, if you don't have money for education, you're done. And I don't understand what makes you guys think that privatizing commodities such as that could actually work. Look at every developed society. It's mixed market or moderate left-wing economies. And the only reason we haven't been able to see a big stateless socialist example is because of U.S. and capitalist imperialism. You won't find one social, maybe you will find a few, but I have yet to meet any right-winger who's been able to find me one society or one country that failed to one specific socialist policy.
So why are blue cities vastly more expensive and seem to be failing compared to the more Rust Belt and ignored cities? Why does an influx of state money seem to make a local economy worse and seem to crush people under a wave of inflation?
You're talking about the U.S. system, right?
Oh, this applies to any country, any demographic.
We're talking about specific policies, though. Like, I need you to give me a specific policy.
I mean, it's not. I'm talking about the status quo, which you're not. That's not what you're recommending. So I could move on. So I mostly have issue with the moneyless policy, and okay. I would just ask you to try and think beyond your dogma for a second, and to try and consider that just because it's a part of the dogma doesn't mean that it's true, or doesn't mean that it is the best way to organize society or to have a functional society.
Well, Aaron, you're saying it's a utopia or it's a dogma. Sir, anarcho-monarchism has never existed. It can exist. It's monarchism, not anarcho-monarchism. So I'm sorry that you have to project your failed economics. Can you give me one example where your economics have ever existed? Anarcho-monarchism?
Well, I could say the same thing for you.
I just gave you like 3 examples, bro.
When?
Oh man. The Native Americans, remember that?
That was one.
Okay. Corporations, like most corporations, using logistics and distribution rather than markets internally, which is exactly what we're talking about. That's number 2. You got the Black Panther Party. They were a decentralized organization that did mutual aid and helped the black community, did fund healthcare, did fund food for them. Where has your economics worked?
My economics works with like all kinds of profit sharing and 401ks and stuff. That's kind of worker ownership, even though they kind of buy into it.
It's not. No, it's not.
It's workers owning stock in the company that they work for. That's worker
Has a
ownership.
401. Okay, so let me ask you this, and I'm not arguing for a state, but I'm just really trying to make a point on how silly this is. Like, when you talk about 401k, name me one time one private organization or charity has funded something like universal healthcare or education on a scale, on a universal scale, like funded for the whole country, funded for the whole society. That can't happen under what you're talking about.
The reason healthcare is so expensive is because of the gatekeeping with like the medical industry. There's so much gatekeeping through mostly like certification and licensing and all this other bullshit. So in an anarchist society, if you had on-the-job training, you would see prices for healthcare probably drop by, I would say, 80%, 90%, maybe even more in some cases.
Yeah, but what we actually see work. What?
Are you familiar with that executive order that Trump made to have hospitals publish their pricing?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, so apparently like 75% of hospitals refused to follow the executive order. And then the other 25% that did, they had like a 10x range in pricing for like routine operations or routine like itemized things, which is really shocking but not surprising. I guess it's shocking and not surprising at all.
Wow. So what you're telling me is that just because you put something on paper, that means you can't implement it? Like,
no, I'm saying that applying market forces to healthcare alone would massively reduce prices, and then
I'm asking you for the 5th time, where has any of this private charity or organization ever been able to fund something like healthcare or education on a massive level? I want empiricism. I don't want your theory. Give me one real world example.
Before the 1970s, the Catholic Church ran the entire healthcare system.
Wasn't it through the state though?
No, before Medicare, there was like it was a completely free market system. Okay, Medicare was in like the 70s.
But did they fund everybody in society's healthcare? Did they fund everybody in society's healthcare?
It was affordable. People just paid for it. You didn't need insurance because it was affordable.
It was affordable back then, sure.
Why can we afford things like food without insurance, but we can't afford healthcare without insurance? Why is that?
Why do we really need insurance? Why can't people just go? Why can't people just go to a hospital, and why can't healthcare and education be free? Like, why do you get to choose who
because
has
it requires labor?
Doesn't? Okay, and who does the labor, buddy?
Nurses and doctors.
The workers. Ding, 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 ding. So guess what? Under your system, you need bosses and rulers. Guess what? Under real anarchy, under real direct democracy, there are no rulers.
So who's paying the workers if it's free? Who's paying the teachers if it's free?
The workers are paying the workers through a labor-backed economy. Everything is going to be moneyless, so all you have to do is
see. Now you lost me.
Okay, so where did I lose you?
A worker-backed economy.
A labor-backed economy, a moneyless society. Yes, that's what we're talking about. Are you asking me how it would work?
So you're saying if a surgeon is working 40 hours a week, he has the same amount of resources as someone who's never worked in his life?
Not necessarily. I mean,
according to this moneyless society, that'd be the case.
I mean, it depends. I don't really like saying how it would actually work, but the fact of the matter is, it depends on the groups and collectives within that society. It doesn't rely on me or somebody else. It's an autonomous system, a decentralized system. There are no rulers, and they don't get to tell other people that they can't do cocaine.
So here's the thing. If you paint me as an ANCAP as like a smear word, right? I have...
Did I call you an ANCAP?
Am I?
Did I call you an ANCAP?
No, but anarcho-monarchism is also a smear word.
I mean, this is probably just as bad. I mean, this is twice as bad as anarcho-capitalism, but that's besides the point. The point is, you just lied about me. So why would you do that?
Okay, here's the thing. I have forfeited probably like 10 different policy points from the right wing dogma, and you can't. I'm asking you to forfeit one, which is the moneyless society, and you refuse to do so.
You can't tell me how it can't work. Why does somebody?
I just did.
No, you. How did you do that?
Number one, shortages, constant chronic shortages.
That happens under capitalism.
No, it doesn't. You have no idea. You have no idea how bad the shortages would be. You could not fathom the shortages.
Sir, now you're just going through like complete theory land, and let me explain in a minute. Hold on.
And real quick, if we're going to be making claims about things, you have to kind of substantiate those claims.
Yeah, exactly. This guy's over here talking about theory land nonsense.
Data and evidence for.
Okay. He hasn't given us one single example of his policy ever promoting life and liberty on an economic level for people that can have education, have healthcare, and not be restricted from money or some monarchist telling them they can't do cocaine. That's authoritarian.
I already made one point. Imagine a store that allows shoplifting, and that would be a moneyless society.
No, that's you making shit up.
Try and refrain from engaging in logical fallacy and straw man.
You see, and here's
how is that
problem,
a logical fallacy?
Wait, can I say something? Here's the problem with you, Aaron. Okay, you want to know why I came on tonight? Because you were bashing leftists, and it was about time somebody who's two-faced finally felt that oxymoronic. Because we both know you're not going to put this on. I completely obliterated you. You've just been going like with theoryland nonsense, and now all you can do is call a moneyless society shoplifting.
It would have similar results as mass shoplifting.
Okay, but show me. Give me one real world example. Show me.
There are no moneyless societies for a reason.
Dude, one of the first civilizations were moneyless societies, and I just gave you 3-4 examples.
And why did they get rid of it?
Because of U.S. and not only capitalist imperialism.
U.S. influence.
What happened to the Native Americans, sir? Who killed them? Who genocided them? U.S. and capitalist imperialism. The U.S. is a capitalist system.
Why did ancient Greece decide to use money?
Because, Aaron, not everybody's going to agree on the same thing, and just because they don't doesn't mean you're right. Oh my God, it's like you're a Rubik's Cube, dude. You think just because you spin, like, it makes sense. No, listen, buddy, I agree with mixed markets. I told you I'm a mutualist. I would just be in a communist commune. And again, you have yet to make any arguments against it. You're just calling it shoplifting. But I actually would have a 70% planned economy and a 30% markets. But again, I'm a real anarchist. So I know for a fact that you can't really you can't really force stuff like that. All that matters is that socialists and communists are going to be the vast majority within post-revolution. So I don't really care if the 10% of the population is capitalist, because if people like you get to become the monarchists, we will have the monopoly on force against you guys, rather than it being the opposite with capitalism, where the people with the most money and with the most guns have all the power. Boom.
What do you mean you would have the monopoly on force?
We would own all the guns. We would own all the tanks, the planes. You guys would have nothing. I mean, sure, you would have like Walmart still, but they're not going to be able to fight 300 million people with their thousands of employees. Sorry.
So you're going to commit violence on Walmart? Why?
I'm not committing violence on Walmart. I'm simply saying capitalism has historically expanded upon territory through force and coercion. Why do you think Hawaii is a fucking U.S. state? Because the pineapple company wanted to grow more sugar in their cane plantations. So they asked the State Department to send in the Marines. And I swear to you, a whole Marine did a whole book on this nonsense that you're talking about. He's the second most decorated Marine, Smedley Butler, and he was a muscle man for all these different companies like Coca-Cola, the pineapple company, Dole. It's a whole book about it. It's a whole history about it. And I want you to search up the Banana Wars before you go to sleep tonight. So just so you can know exactly how silly you sound.
I already said that workers should own the means of production. I said that twice.
But they're still restricted by money. They're still restricted by a monarchist who's going
Most
to put them in
workers
jail.
like getting money. They like earning money. They like being paid.
They like being compensated. Yes, they like being compensated. Yes, and under communism, a low-wage worker has a right to luxury, leisure, and life and liberty. But you guys look down upon that as if, why should they get that when a surgeon works so and so? Here's the difference between capitalism and socialism. Socialists are going to value life, liberty, and equality. Guess what capitalism is going to love? Profit, because that's how it works off of. And guess what the state has always done? The most people who have ever been, 570 million people have been killed by the government throughout the world. But you're telling us it's going to work under you? The guy who's going to arrest people for snorting cocaine while ironically calling himself libertarian?
I was thinking of legalizing cocaine. Cocaine's not that bad. But what about like meth and fentanyl?
Who are you to tell me what I can and cannot put in my body?
Well, you are, because you're signing the contract.
Okay, but just because you signed a contract doesn't mean it's authoritarian. It's not authoritarian, though.
No,
I mean,
yeah, that's 100% true. It's true that it's not authoritarian because you're signing the contract.
Listen, okay, so you're telling me right now, if somebody signs a contract in Amazon or a state or whatever, you say, hey, you're a government or a private employee, you have to do so and so, and if you don't do this, we all get to rape you. Now, even though that's voluntary, are you really going to suggest that contract is not authoritarian?
Well, you'd have to read the contract.
Yeah, exactly.
It's your point. It's your fault. It's your fault for not following.
You would have to read the contract? Oh my god. Oh my god. Come on, you know you messed up on that one, dude.
So there's something under.
You have to read the contract. How about you just don't let people rape other people?
There's something under the.
Hey,
it's not rape because you gave consent.
Hey, why don't you just let people do what they want? At the end of the day, you can tap dance around this voluntary nonsense.
Because people don't want to live in a society with fentanyl.
You are an authoritarian. And no,
people don't want to live next to a meth head.
Okay, you don't have to... Show me where banning drugs has worked.
I mean, it's hard to get fentanyl.
You're silly. No, it's not, because 60,000 people die, probably it's higher, that's from 2018, but 60,000 people die from fentanyl every year. And tell me how these laws have helped all the millions of people who have been oppressed by the drug war.
So is legalizing it the answer to 60,000 deaths per year?
No, healthcare is the answer. Treating it like a medical condition, not a criminal condition. How do you expect somebody who's a heroin addict to get treatment in prison when they can't even keep the fucking drugs out the prison?
They would be getting like 2 weeks to clean up, to sober up. How is that not medical care?
You don't get to decide that. You don't get to decide that. Unless they have harmed somebody else, unless they have committed a crime that involves a victim.
You're getting so angry over nothing right now.
You know, because I'm telling you, this is why this is worse than ANCAP. It's twice as worse as ANCAP. Because
What are you
you're
talking
just gonna
about?
And it's the same argument with capitalism, because what do they always say? Oh, as long as it's voluntarism. No, it's coercion. You have my labor. I am the worker. I do the work. I make the economy. I make the society. There's nobody
But you
else.
don't want them getting paid.
They will get paid. Dude, they're getting paid by labor. Who do you think would make money in your system? The workers.
In a moneyless society, the workers don't get paid.
Everything you have is because of the workers. That castle was built by the workers. The state police that you have in your system, that was created by the workers. Those are all workers. The hammers, all in your society, was made by the workers. So guess what? You wouldn't have shit without the workers. And that's exactly why communism is why life, liberty, and equality is completely answered.
But I'm for compensating people with money, and you're not.
Okay, so why do I have
Boom,
to?
gotcha.
Why do I need? No, you don't. Not at all. Why do people need coins or money to exchange goods and services? Money is just a middleman. All you need is labor and production for an economy to function.
It's for accountability. That's a system of accounting. That's where
That
the word
makes
comes
no
from.
sense. That makes no sense. That's
Accounting,
Aaron.
like the profession accountant, is
Aaron,
the root worm.
Aaron,
The root word is accountability.
listen to me. Are you listening to me?
Yeah.
Nothing you're saying is making any sense. Name me one example.
Okay, if I never work, he just left.
Yeah, he just left. And real quick, so, I just want to say a couple of things. Oh,
Oh,
Is he
hey,
back?
what's up?
Oh, is he back?
Are you? I did he drop the call?
No, you did.
No.
No, I
No,
didn't.
not-
Yo, what did I told you he was. That's why he's laughing, bro.
Okay. So do you want to go ahead and continue, or
Yeah.
we all
do you want to?
kinda-
I mean,
Listen.
I'm being very polite, and I only have issue with one thing he said, and he's very combative in calling my system terrible and saying all
Because
these
you
terrible
bashed
things.
you bashed me. You bashed people who died for me on the internet after we had
Who
a
did
good
I
faith
bash?
discussion.
Who died for you? What are you talking
You
about?
were you were bashing leftists, brother. You were bashing leftists. You know you were. You haven't denied it since until now, so you know you did. And that's why I had to come on tonight. Listen, if you want, I'll simmer down. I promise, I'll simmer down. I just after that fake call drop, I promise you, I will be good faith and I will just simmer down. I promise. What do you want to discuss, brother?
I just have issue with the moneyless society, and I think you guys need to rethink that. I think you really need to
Why?
re-examine that.
Why?
Because it's comical. It's so obvious on its face that it won't work.
Anarcho-monarchism has never existed.
I don't mean to intervene. But I just want to give a little bit of insight as somebody who does a lot of mutual aid. I work with multiple mutual aid organizations, Food Not Bombs, Fort Collins, and Clothe the People. We go out and provide clothes and food and hygiene products to folks who are in need. Especially the homeless population. It's for everybody, but mostly folks who come to seek our services, are homeless or struggling with drug addiction or mental health problems. I will tell you from experience, people don't just take shit. They don't take more than what they need. At least from like in you know, it's anecdotal because it's personal experience. But historically speaking, throughout history, you know, you know, that doesn't happen. This idea that like the shoplifting and shortages would happen, you know, we actually have the opposite problem with our organization. We don't have enough manpower and volunteers because again, we're not making profits. We're not a non-profit. All of the donations and whatnot are generated through the community and, you know, just given without any expectation of anything in return. We have a hard time moving things. We don't actually have a problem with people taking too much things. We have a problem moving it because we don't have enough manpower to actually get all of the donations out there because it takes a lot of time and effort. You know, a bunch of working class folks that are just trying to do that. And so, you know, I kind of reject this idea that people just steal things. Historically speaking, in societies where you have had things like, say, the Paris Commune, right? They had free stores. You know, all the produce of the society was freely distributed. And people didn't take, you know, if there is no incentive to hoard things, people don't hoard things. That doesn't happen. If you have this expectation that a good and service is going to be there when you get back, you're going to have, you know, you're not going to be incentivized to take things that you don't necessarily need. It's only because of capitalism and, you know, private control of the means of production and distribution and artificial scarcity that you have issues of shoplifting and people hoarding things because people are afraid that they're not going to have access to these things in the future, and out of desperation, they steal things. And as somebody who, you know, my father died of alcoholism. My uncle died of a fentanyl overdose because he was a meth addict and he got a hot shot. You know, in other countries like, say, Spain, or was it? No, it's not Spain. It's Portugal. Portugal has virtually completely decriminalized all drug use. Okay, they've cut addiction rates in half, and people dying from overdoses and things of this nature doesn't happen. So I just wanted to throw that out there because you know, I know I'm a moderator, but I really wanted to throw that in there because just from my own personal experience, that's not something that really happens. But I'll let you guys continue with that information in mind with your guys' discussion. I'm sorry for intervening.
Thank you, Hunter. That was, I guess that's what he needed, was a little bit more articulation. I was just a little bit too riled up, but that actually was a good articulation. Yeah, I mean, the values are going to change within that society, a capitalist society and a socialist society, and these are all things that have different values and different belief systems. And at the end of the day, capitalism doesn't believe in life and liberty. It just believes in privatizing the means of production for profit. And they will stop at nothing, even killing children to do so.
See, I don't believe that. I believe that capitalism has the tendency to minimize wages, but beyond that, that's like the biggest issue I see with it is trying to suppress wages.
Okay. It definitely suppresses wages, but it does a lot much more than that. I mean, it suppresses 120 industries. You being able to access the land solely depends on how much money you have, and that's why, like, a money system in general just shouldn't occur.
It doesn't change the reality.
Wait. And if you have a labor-backed society as well, you can't have inflation because you're only going to be able to produce what the labor you have and what the production you have. So I don't see why you're against a moneyless society when it has real-world examples and anarcho-monarchism only works in video games.
That doesn't change the reality. Like, saying that you don't have access to land because it's based on money if you get rid of money, you're still going to have the same ratio of acres to person. You're still going to have the same limited access to land. It just now people won't have a claim on the land, and they're going to fight over it instead of using money.
Well, let's talk about the data, okay? We have 3 million vacant homes right now, and we have 620K homeless people, 120K being children, 50 being veterans. And yes, capitalism has definitely grown children for profit. Have you ever heard of Boeing? Have you ever heard of Lockheed Martin? What is it called? Key Martin or whatever? You know, Hunter. But either way, like the fact is, like, no, capitalism has historically taken life and liberty for the sake of profit. I mean, and on top of that, we just have the resources. You take a look at the data. We have enough food for everybody in America. We have enough clothes for everybody in America. We have enough housing. We have enough health care. These are all things that we have measured, and we know we're going to have scarcity in some places, yeah, but that happens in all economies. It's about rationing the right way. That's the only thing you can do in any economy.
Yeah, we don't have shortages right now because we're using money.
We do have. Have you saw the demand for housing right now?
So okay, money is like a rationing system.
No, it's not.
It is a rationing system. The
It's a
reason
middleman.
because it
I
prevents
agree
access.
with you. I agree with you there, Aaron. Yeah, money is absolutely a rationing system.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. It's definitely a rationing system, and we're seeing exactly how it's rationing. And we're seeing 3 million people dying a year via poverty, preventable diseases, things that are deregulation policies of, capitalism.
Well, my system has UBI for that primary reason.
Yes, that's true, but again, we're talking about a money system that's going to restrict people from the land and the market based on how much money they have. Like, at the end of the day, like, you could tap dance around it all you want, but at the end of the day, money does restrict people from the market. And if you have a moneyless society, all 120 industries are going to be collectivized. Everybody you can access any industry you want. So why wouldn't you choose a moneyless society?
So if you do the math, there's 7 acres per person in America. That's if you just do all the math. Let's say we have a moneyless society and everything's working fine, and make that assumption, but a certain percentage of the population wants 100 acres of land. They all want 100 acres of land, and there's not enough land to go around, especially with farms, especially with like cities and all that stuff. If there's no money to distribute that land, then the next thing they're going to do is they're going to fight each other. They're physically going to battle, or they're legally going to battle, because it cannot change the reality that there's not enough land. And then you can take this same logic and apply it to things like food, to things like housing products, to things like cars and gasoline, and any other product you can imagine.
Okay. So 2 points right there. One, this is gonna let's call it the Democratic Confederation of Buffalo. There's 260K people, right? And let's say there's 46 different nations. There's 46 different nations, stateless nations, obviously. And let's say Elmwood Village attacks Forest Lawn Park. Those other 46 groups, they're gonna all come together and they're gonna fight Elmwood Village because they're violating the constitutional rights of their members within the Confederation. So that's how that would work. So I don't know where you're getting that they're going to battle each other. I mean, we're talking about a system that's literally going to use supply and demand for its own good. We're talking about a system where if Elmwood Village is lacking education, then the South Ward is going to give them more resources for education. And all these groups and collectives They will simply ask for what they need, and in return for getting for what they need, they're going to give their resources out to the rest of those confederations and to the rest of those communities. It's not about one or the other having one thing. With the means of production being publicly owned, we can now share information with all of these different co-ops and businesses that are members within the confederation. And again, with the logistics and the distribution systems, along with using supply and demand, there's no reason why we're not going to be able to distribute goods based on need and availability. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I'm just a skeptic.
Okay, but there's no reason for you to be. I answered all your questions. And I gave you examples.
Well, here, real quick. I will say I'm losing a good little bit of stamina here. But I do want to say, like, I understand Aaron's skepticism, like, in terms of, like, the Overton window of what is, like, politically acceptable. I do want to commend both of you guys for, you especially Aaron, for remaining, very cordial and, respectful throughout the debate, despite, obvious disagreements and whatnot. So I do want to give you props there for, remaining, nice and cordial. And Nate for, starting to reel it back near the end there. After getting a little bit escalated, rightfully so. Frustrated for sure, but like, I totally get it. But I do want to address, Aaron, real quick. Like, I get people's skepticism of, thinking outside of what has already been presented to us, right? We live in a society where information is very, very deeply controlled. Our education systems, our media, our entertainment, all of our worldviews are crafted for us, and the access to information about history and about the experience of people who are living in global southern countries, especially, who have so much to teach those of us who are living in the imperialist core about what life is really about. So let me just say that, like, your skepticism about things is totally understandable. But what I will say is that, experience, and again, at least in my own experience, and history, shows us that there is an opportunity to do better than the status quo. And that I really hope that, one day, we're able to get change. My biggest question for people who fall more into, the anti-revolutionary side of things, it's one, and again, it's something that I get frustrated in even leftist circles, of people always talking in a theoretical conception. We all love to read and love to be theory heads and craft and think about new ideas, which is a really good thing. I don't think that that's something that should be disincentivized. However, we need to be able to kind of get out of theory land and figure out what works in practice. And, one of the biggest things that frustrates me personally with people who are more, economically right-wing, people who empathize with the idea of anarcho-capitalism, even mixed market systems. Again, in my view, I don't personally fundamentally have an issue with mixed market systems of market socialism, et cetera, et cetera. My thing is, I just think that we can do a lot better than market socialism. I think that it's that markets are not necessarily the most efficient way by which we can distribute goods and services. I think that a coordination between producers, consumers, and distributors can take place through a delegatory process where we are all coordinating with each other with open information to be able to distribute goods and services. I think that might be a more efficient kind of system. But I digress. I'd say that like my biggest frustration is that folks on that kind of mindset don't really seem to have like a very convincing argument for how you actually plan on achieving your goals of a in your case a kind of and again, like it's you like not to like shit on your ideology or whatever, but like I really I think your ideology is kind of amorphous in a way, Aaron, and far more overly complicated than it really needs to be. And I think that
I don't think it's complicated.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's just non-dogmatic. It's not complicated.
Sure. I mean, I reject dogmatism fundamentally. I will express like frustration with folks who are of that kind of pathology and way of thinking, as far as what. But my question to you is, how do you plan on achieving your goal of bringing about this society that you want? How are you going to do that? Like, what is your plan of action? What is your praxis as far as achieving the goal of this kind of vaguely mutualist kind of system, but still, I would kind of categorize it as minarchist in its character.
So we would start with a city-state, and then the city-state would grow, and it would form corporations, and we would have the corporations operate on the worker ownership model. And then we can convert existing corporations if we win them over or come to some kind of understanding. And pretty much lead by example from the city model.
Okay, right on. And fundamentally, I don't have an issue with like this idea of having something like a city-state or some kind of like more localist kind of system where you create a system and it slowly develops over time. The issue with that kind of praxis, in my view, is that it doesn't take into consideration the economic interests and national security interests of the United States. As well as other imperialist powers and nations. They are incentivized to crush you. If you try to set up any kind of alternative system, they are going to intervene by any means necessary and destroy you by force. And so, from my perspective, the way that things are going to change is when the imperialist core, the global North countries, the United States, Europe especially, no longer have access to the cheap natural and human resources that are expropriated from the global South. When the global South starts to assert its, economic independence away from the imperialist core and ejects these large multinational corporations and governments that are wanting to intervene in their countries to expropriate the human and natural resources that are present there. And it is by cutting off the imperialist North that, and again, this is going to have effects, of course, in the first world, quote unquote. But this is a necessary thing that needs to happen in order for a larger change in order to happen. I don't really see in quote unquote first world countries that any kind of change is going to occur anytime soon on a local level. I think that I think that in all likelihood, what's going to happen is the best that we can really hope for in the current political moment is tepid social democracy at best, if that. And in fact, I think that it is far more likely that we are to fall into, a highly authoritarian, fascistic, nationalist, ethnocentric, Crecio fascist kind of theocracy, than we are actually have like political change. So that's what I just wanted to kind of throw out there and just kind of get your perspective on how you wanted to achieve those goals. But I know I've been rambling here for a second, but I just want to really thank y'all for having a good spirited debate. I'm losing a little bit of stamina here. So, but real quick, I just wanted to get your take real quick on some of the things that I've had to say. And if in the future you would love to have a discussion with me at some point, because I would really like to discuss some of these ideas with you and see if, we can't learn from each other a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, maybe look past your dogma,
I'm not being dogmatic.
Of course you are. We just went over exactly how you've been dogmatic. I mean, what examples did you give us? Minus a 401k that's never funded anything on a country-wide level.
I told you I'm a mutualist, so it's not dogmatic.
You're not a mutualist, you're an authoritarian and a monarchist.
I told you I don't have a monarchy anymore. I have a 6-person council.
Well, to be fair, this is what I'll say about that. What is the definition of democracy? And what does it mean when you break down the etymological, philological, roots of democracy? What does democracy mean to you, Aaron?
I would say ideally a direct democracy, choosing policy through popular vote.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Your system's not a direct democracy in any way, shape, or form.
Yes, it is.
Right.
How is it not?
That's kind of the point that I'm going to get at here. What is a democracy? If you break it down to its core roots, demos. What demos means the people. Kratos means to grasp. It means that the people have a direct grasp on power. What we have under the current system is what the Greeks would call oligarchy, minority rule, right? Where a small number of the population makes the decisions for what is good and best for the society. I simply do not believe that any handful, 6 people, or even 100 people, or 200 people, or even 1,000 people, could possibly make the good, know what is good and best for a given population. I think that the population themselves know what is truly good and best for their community. And so, like, what you're talking about is representative democracy. Representative democracy. But it is. You say that you have a popular vote of 6 people who make decisions for the population. That is fundamentally oligarchy.
The direct democracy
would mean that instead of you having a small minority of people who are a decision-making body, the population themselves make the decisions as far as what the policies are, and the only administrative process that would take place is delegation, where instead of a handful of elected representatives making decisions, decisions are made from the bottom up rather than from the top down, right?
The direct democracy can approve or veto the decisions of the council.
Well, here's the thing. Again, if that direct democracy decides to ban Coke again, that's still that's the majority having tyranny over everybody else, and that's authoritarian.
Right.
Not to mention, well, actually, can I just make one more point about the delegation? Great job, by the way, bringing that up. Yeah, no, if the Confederation of Buffalo, right, if it has 46 people, they're going to send 2 or however more they feel delegates to the Confederation's assembly, and they are going and. So there's going to be 2 delegates from each group, and that's going to 46 times 2. What's that, Hunter?
I'm bad at math. That's like what, like 130 something. I don't fucking know. 124. Wait, what did you say? 37.
So 46.
92.
46. Yeah. So that would be 92. 92 delegates.
Yes. Yeah, 92 delegates. Yeah, exactly. 92 delegates, because 46 times 2 equals 92, right?
Yeah.
Whatever. We're all bad at math. The point is, we're going to have us, and that assembly is only going to be able to talk about foreign relations and defense, really. Other than that, all communities and individuals are completely autonomous. So long as the collective does not harm an individual or vice versa, then there's no conflict. See, that's the thing about communism. There's just no contradiction within it. Like, we have direct democracy on a political and economic level. That's just, it's just human emancipation.
And to be fair, that's one thing that I would like to address as far as and I've watched some of your videos and whatnot. By the way, you got a lot of good views on that. I've seen that a lot everywhere. By the way, Aaron,
which one?
So good on you. I think it was not your Constitution, but I'm trying to remember you were talking about the coin and some of these other this try. I think you got a lot of views on that. Now, I will say that, this is the thing that we all have to keep in mind as folks who want change. And Aaron, I want to give you the benefit of the doubt and, say that you possibly do want change. I'm not going to just lump you into the basket of deplorables who don't are just status quo defenders, right? I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt there, because I do think that there are a lot of folks out there that are just genuinely dogmatic and are negative actors. I think that that's a very real thing. One thing that I want you to think about, Aaron, is that, the reality is that, no one has a blueprint for how society should look. And Absolutely. It would be arrogant to say that you do. Unless you are some kind of omniscient God, there is no system that any one individual could create that is, infallible and not going to have issues. And that's why one thing that I really want you to consider is that and think about is that at least in my view, whatever kind of system that crops up, it should be the population themselves that are creating that system, right? And that's why I really empathize, and I don't entirely agree with it. I think that we could do better, but I really empathize with the idea of things like democratic confederalism, like what they have in Rojava right now, right? Where
I just explained, yeah.
Yeah, and again, even with you, Nate, I don't think that there's who's to say that it's 2 delegates? I don't think that
That's why I said 2 or whatever they so feel.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
I feel like postulating about even what that would look like is, again, it doesn't serve much of a purpose, right? I think that.
It serves a purpose in the sense that when people ask me, "Oh, well, Nate, communism can't work on a large scale," this is for me to come back and say, okay, well, not only can it work on a large scale, but we have a whole system that can make it work on a large scale. This is just in case, Buffalo decides, the Confederation of Buffalo decides to become 1 million instead of 260. Who are we to say they can't grow? You know what I mean? That's why I'm a neutral. That's why I'm a mutualist, and I specifically say my group would be a communist group. Everybody else, they can even be capitalists too. You know what I mean? If you're
this is the thing.
Wait. When we're talking about a direct democracy, we're talking about everybody has one say and one vote. Everybody's politically equal, so there is no authority. That's true anarchy. And if we do it this way, we can make sure we can have a large mass amount of people without any force or coercion.
I hear you there. I kind of got lost on what I was going to say. It was something to
capitalism. You don't believe in democratic capitalism. I don't really believe in it either. But I mean,
so this is the thing: is the issue is that if any kind of status for change to occur, it has to happen on a global scale. You can't just have pockets of a truly liberatory society crop up. That's not really how it works historically. What happens is if some country, say Rojava, right? Rojava is a great example. they go kind of socialist, leftist, libertarian kind of, democratic and federalist system, right? Direct, very directly democratic, localist, like constitutionalist, social contract, things like that, right? What happens is that they are mercilessly crushed by imperialist powers. They are merciless, in this case, they're being mercilessly crushed by Wahhabists and the fascists in Turkey, that are just bombing them into trying to bomb them into submission and like starve their population out. Like the thing that gets really missed in like, I understand like both of your guys' perspective as far as like the development of like a city state or like the Confederation of Buffalo, right? Unfortunately, I don't think that that's even like anywhere near feasible. I just don't think that that's how it's going to work.
You literally just pointed to Rojava, Syria.
Yeah, what's happening in Rojava, Syria.
On top of that, I also want to point out that I thought we were talking about like if anarchism actually happened, like post-revolution. But if you want to talk about like the realistic thing of communism or socialism or any revolution happening, I don't think we're ever going to see that in our lifetimes. I mean, I'll have to agree with you on that.
We gotta have a little bit of revolutionary optimism here. What I'll say is that the biggest thing that's missing in both of your guys' analysis, that I will be critical on both of you, is that we must keep in mind that we have to have a level of internationalism, of solidarity amongst people of other cultures and places. We gotta like coordinate on a large mass scale if you even want to have like an inkling of a possibility of real fundamental change happening. And so that's the critique that I'll give to both of you, and just kind of throw that out there. I mean, I understand.
I'd
like to hear what Aaron has to say about it.
Oh yeah, he hasn't talked in a while. Yeah.
About what? Internationalism?
Yeah.
I'm more of a local guy.
Me too.
I don't believe in that. So the world is a giant place. It's a massive, massive place. And by forcing everyone under one umbrella or one political system, you're gonna have more conflict, not less.
Well, that's not exactly what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about like having people under one kind of system. I'm saying that in order for change to occur, there has to be a level of coordination on the local level and on the international level, right? You need to work within your own locality, and that's where a lot of your energy should be focused. But you also can't neglect having, solidarity and working with people who are overseas, right? Because what happened in the CNT, in the CNT in Catalonia during the Spanish Revolution? They were mercilessly crushed because they were completely isolated from the whole world. And they, like, even though we had like a lot of folks going over to fight with the Republicans against the fascists and help the anarchists and the anti-authoritarians in Spain, they lost. They lost because of, infighting amongst, like infiltration by the Trotskyists and by the Stalinists, who had a vested interest in maintaining their class authority and making sure that their system of state capitalism remained in place. And then also the Western democracies, coordinating with the fascists to crush them. That's the problem here, is that continually what happens is that these systems crop up, they do well for a little bit, and then they are militarily defeated. Right now, the best example that we have of like a serious societal change is the Zapatistas in Chiapas, Mexico, right? Where they are waging war against the cartels and against the Mexican government, right? And they've been doing so for 30 years successfully. And so that's a little bit of an isolated example of like something that is working, like, but that is still isolated. But by and large, historically speaking, when you're isolated like that, you're crushed. You're just destroyed, and there's no prospect of your system expanding or changing appealing to a larger broad population, because you're just going to be genocided and shot and killed by authoritarians. Like, that's just what's going to happen. So like, that's
Yeah, I think
why
that's,
About this,
yeah. Go ahead.
I think that's more unlikely in the United States in the 21st century because of the internet and because of our history of revolution. And the United States was born from a successful revolution, and like people have such pride in it that I think people are more willing to accept alternatives and accept like something like a city-state model. Even
I totally disagree. I totally disagree.
even
I think
Maoist
that
China.
I think that the population here in the United States is probably one of the most cucked populations in the whole world. We are probably one of the most economically and politically dominated populations on the face of the earth, even worse than China. You know, we are the most photographed and audio recorded population in human history. We have a system of total political and economic control by a small minority of people who have total control over the internet and over mass media, over Facebook and Discord and YouTube and all of these different, like, as much as the internet might be a tool, I think that, at the end of the day, it's controlled by the large multinational corporations that dictate the state. There's no, while it might be a good tool, it's something that I don't think that we can rely on. I think that, word of mouth and talking with people and working with people on a local level is by far the best thing that you could do. Just being there for your neighbors and just trying to help people in the best way that you possibly can, and make those connections. I think that that's the best way. But honestly, as well, as far as the social culture is concerned, it's out of control. I mean, the culture war and the tacit acceptance of authoritarianism and oligarchy, and rejection of any other kind of system. I mean, for fuck's sake, like, the Republicans and the Democrats just passed a major, not major, is like a virtue signaling resolution to condemn socialism and throw, social democratic countries into the same pot as fucking Pol Pot. I think you highly underestimate how brainwashed we are here in the United States.
Yeah, I heard about that. That was kind of shocking, right?
I mean, I think it's ridiculous. I think that it's really stupid, and again, a complete false dichotomy. Like, in my view, like, I don't like social democracy. I kind of think social democracy is kind of a quagmire and doesn't really fundamentally solve the problem. It's still capitalism with a human face. It reduces inequality, but social democratic countries continue to engage in imperialism overseas. They helped the United States in their invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan, the bombing of Libya, information war and proxy war in Ukraine and Syria. I think that fundamentally social democracy is not a solution, but it's far preferable than Pol Pot. To conflate the two is just kind of like, just kind of silly to me. I don't know. What's y'all's take on that?
Well, I mean, I think the United States needs to be abolished. I mean, I think this country was founded on slavery, genocide, white supremacy. There's never been a day in a life where everybody's been free in the United States. There's really no need for statism. I mean, statism has killed much more people than capitalism, and I have to admit that. I mean, it's better.
I'll disagree with you there. Like capitalism has killed more people than any other ideology. It's killed more people than statism, Christianity, and Islam combined. It's not even close. It's not even close. Not even close.
I don't know about that, dude. I hate them as much as anybody else, but I mean, I'm not going to sit here and strawman them. I think government has killed more people than anything in the world. Now, capitalism has only existed in the 19th century, brother. I don't think that's a fair comparison.
I mean, I mean, it wouldn't be a fair comparison, but unfortunately for capitalism, capitalism has killed many billions of people. Like, just in the past, just since the end of the Cold War, people dying of artificial scarcity and poverty-related causes has resulted in the deaths of over 500 million people. And that's a conservative estimate. Like, it's not even close.
Okay.
Not even close. And that's not even including, like, people that die of workplace accidents and all of these other issues. Like, it's not even comparable. Like, under the capitalist system, and again, in my view, only expression of capitalism it will always be statist. They have always been joined at the hip. They are basically synonymous, in my view. And historically speaking, that is the case. I don't think that any kind of anarcho-capitalist system could ever exist and never has existed.
Yeah, of course, but I just think that.
But and again, like the capitalist forces have always dictated the state. Like, the state acts on behalf of the oligarchs. That's how it's always worked, even in the time of.
I think you're missing the actual point here. I think at the end of the day, capitalism and statism is the problem. 99.9% of the world's atrocities have come from capitalism and the government. That can't be denied. You can't deny it. Aaron can't deny it. We're all victims of this system. Whether
no doubt. I just disagree that, like,
Aaron?
Yeah, go ahead.
Right, Aaron?
Yeah, I could agree with that. When I go to Walmart, I don't think of, like, genocide. When I go to a restaurant, I don't think of, like, oh, these are genociders. Or, like, when I get dollar margaritas at Applebee's, that's not really, like, my takeaway.
Well, I mean, I get that, fam, but, like, if you like get down to the nitty gritty of it, pretty much all of the produce of society is built on wage slavery. That phone in your pocket that you are using is built with child slave labor. Like, just because we're disconnected from the suffering of people in these countries like the Congo, right? Just because we're disconnected from the suffering of those people doesn't mean that it isn't going on and that it isn't happening. The luxury.
Where in the United States? I'm sorry, it was cutting out for a minute because I didn't hear you. What were you saying?
But Chinese wages have been exploding the last, like, 10, 20 years.
Well, I'm not just talking about China. I'm talking about, like, like in the Congo, right? That's where most of all the cobalt that goes into manufacturing a lot of our electronic goods comes from.
But here's the thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
If that was a capitalist mine, wouldn't they have machinery doing all of the work like they do in the United States?
No. I mean, as long as throwing little children down the cobalt mine at gunpoint is more profitable than extracting it with machinery, they're always going to do that. Like, that's just how the system works.
I also want to point out that the reason you don't really see all the true suffering that capitalism truly does is because you're in the richest country in the world. You get to see what all that suffering and blood produces. You get to have that iPhone and that TV. You're not going to see the children who are being droned in the Middle East because of private defense contractors soliciting the state for special favors. You're not going to see stuff like that. And we're not saying Applebee's or a mom and pop shop is inherently authoritarian. Well, inherently authoritarian. I just don't think that capitalism should be the main system. Like, if
I'll disagree with you there, Nate. I think.
Whoa, we're gonna disagree now. We're gonna disagree now.
It's a three-way debate.
Wait a second. Wait a second, Hunter. Are you telling me not all leftists agree?
What?
Is that true?
Holy shit.
What the fuck? Dude, there's no way. Hunter, come on, dude. You're the one who radicalized me. You're telling me we're not going to agree on this? Okay, fine. What do you disagree on then?
Oh no, I mean I think that the authority that even in a like mom and pop, but again like especially like a chain, right, where you have like a board of directors at a corporation who are expropriating all of the profits that are generated by the workers who work there. That's absolutely authoritarian inherently. Like the employer.
I'm talking.
Is it genocide though?
Inherently authoritarian.
Is it genocide though?
No, I don't think it's
I think that you know, when you take into account where a lot of the goods and services and produce like come from, yeah, I mean like, and
yeah,
that's not even
like...
taking into account things like climate genocide. That's absolutely thing. Just because you know, the deaths have not happened yet, even though they are still happening. You know, currently, you know, you look at places like Bangladesh where, you know, people are starving to death and being killed in massive floods, you know, and I, as a victim of a natural disaster myself, you know, losing everything as a result of, you know, a tropical depression in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, which was the largest natural disaster to ever hit the United States at the time, you know, affecting hundreds of thousands of people.
Oh, yeah, I forgot you were a survivor.
Not even accounting for that, yeah. I mean, I would absolutely...
I totally forgot about that.
So let's say...
Yeah, no.
Let's say I got margaritas at my local worker-owned Applebee's. Would I be genociding people in Indonesia by doing so?
It depends on how that margarita was produced, right? So if it was made with rum coming from a fucking slave colony where you have a large multinational corporation where the co-op is buying, you know, fucking cane sugar produced rum from this unethical corporation, absolutely. Like, you know,
have you heard
and
of
again, that's the thing is
totalitarian...
like this is the thing as well that we need to keep in mind is that under the current system, there is no such thing as ethical consumption. You know, you can't have anything without massive exploitation because of the way that the system is produced. So like, I'm not gonna like call you a genocider or call that mom and pop a genocider or those folks a genocider. I'd say that we are all beneficiaries of the mass overexploitation of people all over the world and even in our own communities, right?
All of us. Every single goddamn one of us. And I just want to point out, I was talking more of like a post-revolution theory mutualist society where
I don't give a
it's
fuck
a socialist.
About that. I'm not gonna lie. I don't give a fuck about any kind of theoretical bullshit. I care. I mean, like, we have to have like a cohesive vision, and we need to be able to present a cohesive vision, and I do see the value of that. But you know, really, where all of my focus is, and where I think that you know, other folks' focuses should be. I mean, I can't tell you what to believe. I think that our focus should be on making sure that people are getting what they need. You know, I guess I'm a little bit biased, but I'm totally like bent on mutual aid. I think that the best way that we're going to be able to get change is through labor and through mutual aid. You know.
And I think you're wasting your time, and I think you're completely wasting your time. I think you're not. I think you deny the fact that we don't have an economic crisis that is needed for a revolution. I think you're just living in fantasy land where this revolution is going to come. The fact of the matter is, I know for a fact revolution is not coming, and I just want to live my life as an anarchist on an individual level. There's just nothing we can do about it. Like we're done.
No, I don't know. But I feel like that's kind of a self-defeating thing there. But like, I'm not disagreeing.
I also had another point, but
I'm not disagreeing. Real quick, if I could, I'm not disagreeing with that like assessment. I have like revolution just doesn't spontaneously happen, and I don't believe that would ever happen. Like, you know, and again, like optimally, what I would want is something that is like completely non-violent and as as easy as possible, where there's as little suffering as possible, because I don't really you can't have like say, they had, like, say we had like a general strike, right? And the economic system was completely shut down, right? And this led to a destabilization of the current system. Having some, if you don't have some kind of, something to fill that power vacuum that is created in a system, you're just going to end up with something like Syria, where, you have a bunch of, it's just absolute sectarian dogma where the most reactionary people who are most willing to use violence are able to win out in such a conflict. So for me, where basically all of my focus is in something that I can actually, affect the material world around me, is by simply making sure that the people around me are being provided for, that they have, like, within the best of my capacity, that they have have a decent standard of well-being, and that for those of us who are the least economically privileged, that they, you at least have some fucking clothes, that you at least have, clean fucking needles, so that you're not contracting sexually transmitted diseases from needle use because you're addicted to fentanyl or heroin or some kind of other intravenously intravenous drug because it's a fucking health problem, right? Like, that's where our focus should, in my view, really should be, is organizing your workplace and making sure that your neighbor has enough food to feed their kids.
Well, there's definitely nothing wrong with being a positive influence. But again, if you think anarchy is going to come in your lifetime, that's very foolish. It's not going to come in hundreds, thousands of years, and most likely it's never going to happen. So
you need to have my whole point. I will quote Angela Davis on this.
Yeah,
I will quote Angela before you continue. Listen, I'm going to quote Angela Davis on this.
No.
Yes. You need to have the urgency. You need to have the urgency of tomorrow and the patience of 1,000 years.
Nobody cares. That's great. Nobody cares. What do you have to say, Aaron?
I think it's completely possible within, I would say by 2030.
Okay. Really? Why?
Yeah. So here's the thing. Buffalo is not a very revolutionary place because we actually have the privilege of cheap housing and a functional economy. Like, things actually work in Buffalo because of our declining population actually makes the economics work. In a lot of cities,
I agree with you.
In a lot of cities, when you have a $300,000 house, $500,000 house, even $750,000 house, things are much more dire and things are much more radical, I would say. So yeah, I think both of us might have a warped view on how likely a revolution is.
Yeah, no, I mean, if it happens, it happens. I'm not against it. My whole original point to this was, I don't mind mom and pop shops, and I think if socialism is done right, I don't see why. I was trying to make your point, like, yeah, if it's a mom and pop shop and they're not exploiting people from like China or shit, I don't see why them owning a mom and pop shop would affect the rest of us when everybody would still be able to live life the way they see fit. People would still be able to have housing and healthcare and all the basic luxury and leisures, as well as the bare necessities in life. Like, that's why I'm saying, like,
this is what I'd say about that. Okay. So, like, a mom and pop shop is far more ethical than Walmart, right? Like, I'm not like, I don't want to create a false equivalency there. Like, I'm not saying that, the level of tyranny there is exactly the same, but, a mom and pop shop, people who are, say, like, upper middle class, who are property owners, right? Them leveraging their economic position over other people who are less fortunate than they are, I still kind of find distasteful. I don't really like that. Like,
Yeah,
and I'll say,
but
I'll
okay,
say
so
at least, like I'll say at
though
least that like in a mom and pop shop, it's a little bit more democratic than say in like a, at like Walmart, right? You know, because on in a small business, the workers that are there, they play a little bit of a greater role and have a little bit more bargaining power, like over the decisions that are made in a local system. But I still don't think that I don't think that it is just that you can own means of production and then utilize that economic benefit that you have obtained, likely not through your own blood and sweat, likely through inheritance or some other kind of dishonest and illegitimate means, and leverage that against other people. I don't think that that's just under any kind of circumstance, and I don't think that it's the optimal way that we should do it. Like, I think
that's why I'm saying, like, as so long as socialism is the main dominant system, like, there's literally, then capitalism becomes legitimate due to the sole fact that somebody working at a mom and pop shop for extra money or what have you, that's not restricting their way of life. They can still have a house, they can still have a decent living, and them being under that capitalist, as long as they're legitimately doing business, I don't really see how that violates anybody's rights.
Because again, we're trying to talk about like a moneyless society, right? Or are you talking about something else?
Now we're talking about like actual mutualism and like social, and how socialism would work.
This is the thing, like, I still like morally fundamentally disagree with it, but not to the same level. Not to the same level that like I disagree with like the current status quo. Like, I think that like things like mutualism are like far preferable to the current system, but I still just don't think that it's the most like efficient or like what's going to produce the best results for society. Like, I just don't. I don't see that.
Well, then I guess I'm just very curious then, like, if you don't believe in a mutualist society where people can have whatever economic system they want when they don't harm anybody, like how do you establish how do you establish people from not, obviously.
God, Nate, your connection is so bad, Nate.
Yeah, he was mid-sentence.
Yeah, and again, I don't think it's intentional at all. The terrible internet. Terrible internet.
Society. I just don't see how
you just like cut out and then like are continuing your sentence like midway like through. Like, I have no idea what the fuck you just said.
Yeah, because I was I don't know. But I guess what I'm asking is, like, if it's not a mutualist society, what? So you're just saying you just want what I want, or you want to live in an anarchist commune? That's all you care about?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would prefer. And then, like, you can't like force people to force people to choose like an economic system like that. That's for me like why I believe in, I guess it's a kind of a hodgepodge ideology that I have, like, is my own philosophy that I've helped develop with other people. But like, I believe in coalition socialism, right? I don't think that there's going to be any one system that people are going to dogmatically adhere to. Like, I think that what it would look like is, say like Detroit. Like, Detroit would be far more likely to fall under to like a Marxist-Leninist kind of system, right? Where they have, a more of a centralized state system where because maybe like, and again, I can't say for what they'd want in Detroit, but like, like maybe because they want their society to be more industrialized, and they believe that it's through the state that they're gonna get that. Or people say on the East Coast, right, that want more of like a social democracy or democratic socialism, right? Or
that's
like
mutualist.
Here in the
You're
Midwest, or here in the Midwest, where they'd have like more like libertarian socialism or anarchism, right?
Yeah.
That's not the same as mutualism. Mutualism is a completely like that's not like a political philosophy. That's an economic model. It's a little bit more like it is prescriptive. It's a particular kind of system, and it's again I don't agree with Proudhon's analysis there, but I do think that hello, what's your name, fam? Oh yeah, right on. I don't know. I don't know who this person is.
It's a friend of mine.
Oh, right on.
Oh, hello, friend.
Hi, sorry, don't mind me. I'm gonna stay as silent as I can by muting myself, and then I'll listen
Oh
through
no,
my
no, no!
headphones.
Feel free. We were just kind of having a discussion there. So please feel free. Like it's not. We I think we've kind of gotten past the main debate aspect of it and the main event, so to speak, and it's now just kind of turned into a back and forth.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're more than welcome to join us. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, because we finished 30 minutes ago. Really, it's just a back and forth, really.
Okie doke.
But yeah, no. Okay, yeah. I mean, I don't know. That sounds like how anarchy would work for me. It would be people would just naturally associate. There's a certain part of culture in one spot, a certain part of culture in another spot. That's just how humans interact. It would just
right.
naturally happen. I don't think that.
Yeah.
I don't think the Democratic. When I say a Democratic Confederation, I don't think all of autonomous America should be Democratic and Federalist. I mean, that would be great, but the fact of the matter is, the Confederation of Buffalo, that would just be the main thing. I'm not trying to dominate everybody in autonomous America. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, anybody who thinks that their one system is going to be the predominant system, I think is just deluding themselves. I don't think and no offense to anybody who does adhere to that and believe that. I don't think it's going to be any one kind of system. But there does need to be a level of coordination, and there does need to be certain things that are not acceptable. For me, one of my biggest disagreements with people say anarcho-capitalists that I've debated, right? Online, they talk about I asked them, hey, do you support ethnostatism? Would you be totally cool if this given locality had segregation? And and again, in order to have an ethno state, you have to
this discussion. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's give them something to. So me and him were talking about this a few nights ago, and we were talking about so what happens if the Democratic Confederation of Buffalo just has this ethno state in Tonawanda, and it's a bordering it's a bordering neighborhood society, right? Do we declare war on them because they're an ethno state, or do we just leave them alone? What would we have to do?
Well, and then not even you don't even have to declare war on them. I just don't think that you should interact with those individuals. You should sanction them basically, because I'm sorry, but there are certain systems that I'm not going to accept and that are unacceptable to me. If somebody sets up a fascist ethno state, I'm going to economically separate myself from them and not participate in any way, shape, or form, because their system is so grotesque that it's unacceptable. Same with capitalism. I'm not going to. If I have a vote in the matter, I'm going to vote that we sanction the fuck out of them. Sorry.
What? Who are you? Who the fuck are you to tell them what they can and can't do? I'm sorry.
They can do whatever the fuck they want, but I'm just not going to work with them.
Sorry, pardon my French, but I can't believe I heard that from you, Hunter. You're going to tell me you're going to sanction Sapphire City because they're a laissez-faire capitalist society? No,
yeah.
We want to
Tonawanda's nice.
We want to trade with them. We want to interact with them. We want to make them.
I think that what they're doing is unethical as fuck, and I don't want to benefit them in any way, shape, or form.
How do you sanction them? What you're gonna sanction them through your anarchist UN?
No, I'm just not going to trade with them. That's what a sanction really is.
No, sanction is no, dude. That's not what a sanction is.
I'm just not. Okay, maybe sanction is not the right word. I'm just not going. I'm going to vote that we don't trade with them.
I'm glad. I'm so glad because a sanction is essentially when you starve that country or society to death. Until they give up, at least. That's essentially what a sanction is.
Yeah, maybe sanctions like a little bit of a harsh term, but I'm not going to trade with them.
Okay.
I'm not going to engage and trade with them because I don't fucking agree with what they're fucking doing. I don't think that segregation or ethnostatism or fascism or fucking capitalism are acceptable.
Let me tell you something, and this is coming from a black man on Black History Month. Malcolm X, the most courageous leader in black history, who gave his life for me and for other people. You know what he used to do, Hunter? He used to coalition with this guy. You may have known him as George Lincoln Rockwell. And who was George Lincoln Rockwell? He was the president of the Nazi Party of America. And do you know what they both did, Hunter?
That's why I don't agree with everything that Malcolm X fucking did. Sorry.
Okay.
Like I don't care. I don't care what race you are. Like ethnostatism under any context is unacceptable to me. I don't agree with it. Segregation is a disgusting ideology that should be resisted. Oh shit.
I'm sorry. The reason why Malcolm X wanted separation, not because he was a racist, not because he hated white people. Malcolm X wanted separation because he knew, as a communist, he understood that you cannot force people to believe in the shit you do. And the only way you're ever, and this is the things that I've learned from civil rights leaders, like MLK, love is always going to win. People are going to get their shit figured out. And then eventually,
that's why MLK was way more based than Malcolm X.
I guess that's neither here nor there.
Fred Hampton and MLK were far more based than Malcolm X. Sorry, and again, like Malcolm X is kind of based, but I don't agree with him on fucking everything. I don't like Abrahamic religions. I don't like ethnostatism. That's not my fucking
I'm just letting you. I don't know, man. I mean, it just sounds to me like you just want to perpetuate this of spreading hatred and violence, and just violence leads to more violence. You know what I want to do? I want to live a world where, the less criminality that happens, the better. And I don't think that theoretically or throughout history, if there were two ethno-states next to each other and they both started developing their societies and started going against, they started advancing themselves through the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, they would have no choice but to start connecting those shit.
I don't know about that, because historically speaking, every time an ethno-state has been set up, it's been extremely fucking oppressive. It's been really bad.
We're talking about but now we're talking about ethno-states that do aggression. If they're doing aggression,
how do you expect to create an ethno-state if it's not through force? You have to forcibly displace people in order to have an ethno-state.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I don't understand why you have to force it. Explain that to me.
What about the people who don't want to leave?
If it's an anarchist ethno-state, which is really like a fucking
sounds like fucking hate.
Listen, anarchist ethno state is going to be like a fucking hick town of like 500 people, bro. Like, honestly, like it's not going to be like Israel or Saudi Arabia. It's if they start like getting a bunch of sheets and fucking with us, we're going to have the monopoly of force. We're just going to shoot them. It's like, other than that, like I'm not talking about aggression. I'm an anarchist. If you do aggression, then yeah, you're illegitimate, no matter what type of society you are, even communist.
I mean, but like just like your argument for like against Aaron there, like name one example of an ethno state that has not involved violence.
Oh yeah.
What about Poland?
Whoa! Yeah, it's cutting out really bad. So you, Aaron, you said Poland.
Yeah.
I mean, what about Poland?
They have accepted 0 refugees.
I mean, that's pretty atrocious. Like they're a NATO country and have been directly participating in fomenting the refugee crisis, and they're not willing to take refugees. That's kind of fucked up, dude.
Hey, listen, he gave you an example, so stop ignoring his example.
Dude, they have they have like a serious cash problem in fucking Poland. Are you kidding? Like,
hey, listen, now you're tap dancing. He gave you an example.
No. Poland engages in violence against people in other countries. And they also, again, like, to the best of my knowledge, there's a lot of like local level violence and whatnot, like bigotry and like really fucked up shit that goes on there. Just like in Ukraine, they got pogroms and shit going on.
Yeah, but it's only because it's a state. We're talking about like anarchists.
Yeah, but that doesn't exist. That's bullshit. That's never existed.
Evolution's not going to exist. My mutualism is not going to exist. Aaron's Marxism doesn't exist. We're talking about things that theoretically happen, some things that have examples, some things that have empiricism. It's not a matter of whether it can or can't happen.
That's bullshit. That's bullshit. I don't accept that.
No, you. At the end of the day, you have like this mentality, this superior complex. That you're more educated and woke because you believe. No, you're just as idealized as me or Aaron.
You're breaking up.
Yeah, it literally just sounds like gibberish, and like you're insulting me. Like, that's basically it. Oh, that is so unbelievably bad. Like I cannot hang with that. That is.
You gotta fix your Wi-Fi.
Yeah, your Wi-Fi is out of fucking control. But like, okay, like, you know, it's not that I like think I'm high. I just I fundamentally don't agree with that. I think that that's abhorrent. I don't think that ethnostatism, you know, and again, especially if you have like a superiority complex over your fucking where you came from or whether fucking skin color you have, I think that's fucked up.
Okay.
Like
so you're willing to say on the Archivog or whatever it is, you're willing to say right now that you would sanction 500 people whose poverty rate is like.
Yeah, Nate, I'm so sorry, but I literally can't like respond to you because I don't know what you're saying because it keeps cutting out so bad. Like, so, okay, let me try and gather like what you're trying to say, and like I don't know if this is correct, but like so, this is what I'll say is like, if you know, in my like from my historical analysis, there has never been an ethno-state that has existed that hasn't engaged in violence. and don't,
You're
you know,
missing-
like these like hyper bigoted, you know, countries in places like Hungary and Poland and, you know, even to some extent in places like France and shit. You know, they have some seriously
you're missing
fucked
the
up
point.
shit that goes on there. Like, that's really, and again, Israel is a great example of, you know, really fucked up human rights violations that occur based solely on, you know, a dogmatic perspective about like believing that your culture or your religion or your race are superior to others. Like, I think that that's a
Hello, can you
stupid
guys
fucking
hear me?
idea, and there is literally
Can you guys hear me
no,
at all?
literally
it's better.
no situation in which I would find that acceptable.
Much better?
And if you and your nation was engaging in that, I would not participate. I would not give you money. I would not trade with you or anybody else who is doing dealings with you. I absolutely support things like BDS. I think that, you know, that Israel should not be able to commit genocide against the Palestinian people. That's not acceptable. There's no situation under which I would ever accept that at all. Like, and historically speaking, there has never been an ethno-state that hasn't engaged in violence. You can't have an ethno-state without engaging in violence. That's not possible.
What about the Native
Okay,
Americans?
You're
North
completely
American?
They weren't ethno states, and I think you're completely missing the complete point because I'm not an ethno statist, and I don't believe
I know.
in a
I'm just arguing
I'm
against
just-
ethno-statum in general.
I'm just trying to make it I just want us to be on the same side. If there's a collective who's not harming anybody else, we can't declare war on them. We can't sanction them. We agree on that, right?
I mean, again, I believe in like freedom of association. If I don't like a group, I don't have to I don't have to coercively. You have to like participate in what they're doing. You can't like force people to do anything. Like, that's not acceptable to me. Like, you can't force people to do that. Like, and you know, there's a certain level of like, you know, I like what they have in like, say, Rojava, right? The you know, the social contract in Rojava.
Yeah,
They're
we need a
accepting of all
constitution. Yeah.
culture- They're accepting of all people of all faiths, colors, and creed. Like, that's a baseline. Like, there's no, you shouldn't have divisions based on race, color, and creed. That's like, I don't know. I just find that extremely distasteful and immoral. And I think that in order to not have that, you have to engage in some kind of coercion to force you know, individuals out based solely on race, color, and creed.
And you know what, Hunter? I'm very glad you have the white privilege of being able to say something like that.
Oh,
But
that's such bullshit.
What you have to understand is that minorities in general have kind of been forced to like be together because they're the only people who and creed. But I think again you're ignoring how civilizations, especially when they're interfered with states, how they react, and how they react is, yeah, black people stay with black people, Chinese people stay with Chinese people. I mean, and even in Buffalo. Even in Buffalo, it's the 8th most segregated
I
city.
lived in the fucking South, dude. Like, I know what it's like to live in a town that's fucking segregated, okay? Like, that was completely gentrified. Like, on one half of the town in fucking in fucking the Garden District, it was, you had the quote unquote ghetto, and then you had the rich fucking white families and fucking bougie ass pieces of shit. And I lived in the fucking ghetto. Okay,
how do we stop racism?
And I don't find that arrangement to be acceptable. I don't find that having segregation it doesn't foment like resentment and conflict, because it absolutely does. There's horrible racism and horrible bigotry that goes on in the South. Like, you know, there's so much fucking hatred and animosity.
Here, I'll give you a question,
that's
though.
Something that fucking happens. Like,
Well,
yeah.
Do you think minorities are more empowered by forced assimilation, or if they had their own institutions?
I mean, I don't think that you can forcibly assimilate anybody. I don't think that that's acceptable either. You know, you can't force people to do shit. Like like they like people should absolutely have like their associations and whatnot. You just can't like force that on other people, and that's why I oppose ethnostatism. Right? You know, like you in order to have an ethnostate where you have a locality that is exclusively of one ethnicity, you have to enforce that. You know, you have to be you have to use some kind of coercion in order to have that happen. You know, if
like
somebody of some other kind of race or ethnicity comes into that area, they will be forcibly removed.
You really think black people like me are going to go into a community that has a sign that says "No niggers," like literally right there on their main road? Like I promise you,
up. That's not what that shouldn't be a fucking thing. That
but
shouldn't
it
be
happens. Oh my god! And you know what? It doesn't matter what your feelings tell you. It happens. And as long as it happens voluntarily, you nor nobody else has a right to sanction or go to war with them.
I mean, I can do whatever the fuck I want. I don't have to fucking.
You're
I don't have to fucking trade with you. I don't have to fucking trade with you if you're gonna be a fucking hick village. I don't want to do that. Like, I don't support you. I don't agree with that. You can go fuck off. Sorry. Like, I don't think that that's very controversial. Oh god, it's so bad, Nate. It's so bad. It's like nails on a chalkboard. Like, I can't understand anything you're saying. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, we gotta
Okay,
fix your Wi-Fi.
Yeah, your Wi-Fi is so bad, dude. Like, I can't understand anything you're saying, like, at all.
Yeah. That and I'm sure you guys can't hear me still. I'm gonna.
Now you're good.
I'm gonna. Oh, I'm good. Okay.
Now you are, yeah. You know your
Okay.
boundaries, right? Of your own house?
I have Wi-Fi, so it's just I'm using my data right now. I should reset my Wi-Fi. I should reset my Wi-Fi though. You're right. I'm gonna reset it. Right.
Yeah, if I go into like certain areas, I know I lose connection.
Yeah, but like,
yeah,
I'm sorry that y'all don't y'all disagree with me on this, but that's just how I fucking feel about it. Like, I don't like ethnostatism. I don't think that we should have segregation. I don't think that we should have
answer.
Those
oh my god!
But wouldn't it be beneficial for minorities?
Look out,
Can
the
I-
Zeta
can I-
Reticuli are going to come
No,
for you
I
for
mean-
not approving of their segregatory methods.
Say
Say
that
again?
again. I'm sorry.
I was half joking. I said, look out, the Zeta Reticuli are going to come after you for not approving of their segregatory systems.
I mean, I'm sorry. Like, no, I don't agree with
Do you want a
I don't
minority's
agree with
answer?
nationalism, and I don't agree with ethnostatism. I don't
Do you
care.
want a minority's answer?
I mean, sure, but like, you know, I that doesn't mean that I have to agree with ethnostatism. Like,
Oh, I don't agree with it. You're strawmanning me now. Like you keep arguing as if I'm arguing for ethnostate.
I'm literally just stating my position about ethnostatism, and you're getting so up in arms, dude.
Because you're denying your own anarchist principles. And
It's not against my anarchist principles to oppose ethnostatism.
You're gonna sanction a bunch of innocent fucking people who didn't hurt you. You're just gonna sanction the shit out of them because they say mean words to you. Like your liberalism is showing. You're being a liberal right now.
People who are engaged in coercive behavior.
Hey,
I don't
Hunter,
have to do that
Hunter.
if I don't want to.
Hunter, what's the difference between you and a liberal right now when you think you can tell other people what to do?
I can't tell them what to do. I can't force
So
them to do
you'll
it.
sanction them.
But I can't.
You'll go to war.
But I don't have to.
You'll
I don't want to
nuke
trade
them.
with them. I don't have to trade with them. I have no obligation to do that.
You're gonna bomb that poor. You're gonna bomb that fucking poor community like we bombed Vietnam. You're gonna just do them like Vietnam because
I said that
Hunter's
we
feeling
thanks them. And that's even a strong term from what I'm saying. I'm just saying that you shouldn't fucking trade with them. Like, I'm sorry that that's not an acceptable position to you. I don't think that violates my principles whatsoever to say that I don't have to, my commune doesn't.
You don't. I never said you didn't. I never said you didn't. But again, I wouldn't go to war with them. Essentially, I didn't say you said that.
But you're saying that I'm saying that. I never said that. like.
Okay, well, I think Aaron deserves his answers. Question. Now that you're done telling us what you wanted to tell us, can I answer?
I think you're underestimating how much it empowers minorities.
Yeah. So it's again, that's what the whole civil rights movement was about back in the day. It was separation versus segregation versus, I guess. Oh yeah, revolution. The Black Panther Party. Yes. There was the most. There was.
I agree.
Yeah, listen, you're very excited. I get it, but I was going to answer this question. Yeah, no. So like, you had the Muslims, you had the Black Panther Party, and then of course you had MLK. And at the end of the day, like, this doesn't just go towards Black people and minorities in general. Us as a working class has to unite together, and we have to look beyond race. And we all have to be united by the same faith, language, and culture. That being socialism. That's my answer.
I mean, I think that, there's no such thing as there's no such thing as like left unity. That's not something that's possible. Like I think that there's a possibility for coalition. I think that there's a possibility for coalition, but I don't believe that there's going to be one culture.
Sir. Hey, sir, can I tell you something? I said working class. You know what I mean? That's what I said.
I mean, but for me, that's like the same as these MAGA communists who are like, let's coordinate with fascists.
I'm a MAGA supporter now.
Fuck that. I'm not.
What's wrong with MAGA communism?
Because they're working class.
What's wrong with MAGA? Oh, this guy's woke. This guy's woke. He knows what he's talking about. What about MAGA communism? Don't you think we should unify with working class people despite them being capitalists? Well, they're not capitalists. They're fake capitalists. But we're just working class people. They're just like us. But hey, they just happen to be conservative.
We should just kind of work with the fascists, is what you're saying. No. That's asinine. I don't accept that.
Aaron, when did I ever say we have to unify with fascists?
I don't think you did.
You said
that, buddy.
Like, we have to have class solidarity, but that doesn't mean coordinating with
anybody who wants it.
That's why MAGA communism is fucking dumb as fuck.
Hey, sir, we were joking about that. Don't be silly. I'm talking about people who have revolution on their mind, and we all know fascists aren't going to join our socialist coalition. So what do you even mean?
Oh no, they try to infiltrate. That's what fascism is. That's what fascism is. Is like. They are systems of like pseudo revolution that that are there to preserve the status quo. That's what fascism is the intersection of corporatism and the state, where the lines become blurred and they become one entity, and they have like this weird pseudo revolution, like the Nazis.
State capitalism.
Huh?
You're describing state capitalism.
Yeah, that's what fascism is. Fascism is state capitalists' final attempt to ameliorate its own contradictions. That what happens is that you have and again in the case of Hitler, he was like a again, they had an aura of like pseudo revolution, and the capitalist bourgeois class, they accepted Hitler because they thought that they were going to continue maintaining their class position. What they didn't end up understanding is that they're going to end up being subsumed by the fascist state. And so, like, you know, that's what fascism is capitalism's final death gasp as it tries to ameliorate its own contradictions because it continually fails. Like, that's what fascism is.
So you're saying the United States?
Do you think that's what MAGA communism is?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, like, the ideology of Alexander Dugin and fucking Lyndon LaRouche, those people are absolutely fascists. They're total fucking
absolutely. Oh no, you were serious about that, Aaron? No, yeah, no. People, yeah, that's horrible. No, you don't want to. You don't want to get into that shit. You really don't want to get into that shit. I promise you.
That's the fucking Kool-Aid, dude. Don't fucking. Those people are fucking nuts. Like, I could post to you like the kind of shit that they post in their fucking Discord and shit. Like, I'll fucking go and like I've since left it because it's kind of dangerous because like they're like genuine fascists and like want to harm people, so it's kind of dangerous to be there. But like, you know, like. I'll send it to you, Aaron. Like, these people are just fascists. They want to coordinate with reactionaries like Alexander Dugin. Again, Alexander Dugin. Do you know who I'm talking about?
No.
Okay.
Oh man.
So Alexander Dugin is this Russian philosopher in Russia, and again, he's a fascist. He's just a fascist. He's a self-avowed fascist.
Oh, I think I've heard of him.
Yeah, he's worked with organizations like the Traditionalist Workers Party, the Golden Dawn, and things like that. Like he works with the like outright fascist groups, and basically he has this view of like what is the ideology of Eurasianism, essentially, that they want a new hegemon that is Eurasian in character and ethnicity. Like that's what they want. They want like again, basically, the Slavic regions to dominate the world, and they are willing to coordinate with any and everyone who will listen to them in order to achieve that aim. And they believe in statism. They believe in like just straight authoritarianism, and think that that's totally cool. And there are a minority of folks, on like BreadTube and shit that have are absolutely coordinating with people like Alexander Dugin, and so there's this guy named Jackson Hinkle, right? And back in the day, he used to be super based. Like, he would talk about he was super he was an environmentalist, quote unquote. And again, I'm not really an environmentalist. I'm an ecologist. I believe in ecology, but not environmentalism. But he did this like radical political transformation where he's just being a total excuser for Russia's invasion. Like, and for me, like, I have a little bit of like, and I'd like to get your take on that, Aaron. What is your take on what's going on in Ukraine right now?
It's pretty sad. I'm not a fan of Ukraine, but I'm not a fan of starting wars either.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, holy shit, you got a reasonable fucking position that's semi-nuanced. Holy fuck.
Well, actually, he's actually been agreeing with me too. So, I mean, outside, he's a smart kid. He's just misguided a little bit.
Oh, don't be, you're so mean. I
say the smart kid. What?
You just called him this guy. Like, okay. Okay. I don't think it's because he's like confused. I think that he like genuinely believes what he wants to believe in. I'm not gonna like totally shit on the guy, but like, we disagree. Like, and I don't think that you're like a negative actor, and I just think that you're wrong. If that makes sense.
But why would you?
Uh,
Yeah. Why would you bash leftists on
yeah,
the
don't
internet?
bash leftists, dude. Like you don't gotta do that,
Yeah.
man. Like we can like disagree, but don't like.
We could have started it like this, but you know, me and you had a conversation, and then you say one thing to me, and then you say another thing online, so it kind of was like two-faced. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think everyone tends to do black and white thinking on social media.
Oh,
You know
dude,
what?
Dude,
That's
I totally
fair.
agree with you there.
That's
Totally agree with you there. Like I think that
That's fair.
you know, the internet and especially like text-based format for via communication really allows for some really nasty discourse. Like I think it's a lot harder to engage in like genuinely mean-spirited discourse when you're like kind of forced to like we're not talking in person right now, but like it's like even over like a Discord it's easier to not see the other person as a human being, and so we have a tendency to like dehumanize folks.
Yeah,
But like what I will say,
and that
like
grip is easy to do that. Yeah.
what I'll say, Aaron, is like, has your opinion like shifted as far as like your animosity for leftists and like what we what as a leftist, like what I advocate, like based on your conversation with me?
I would say over the last like year or two, I've probably warmed up to certain leftist ideas. The first pillar to fall was landlords. Who needs them, right?
Yeah, dude, that's actually a fucking based Marxian like policy.
And then
Like I have to give him credit for that one.
And then,
No, what else?
the business owners and stuff like that, like Elon Musk. I'm not an Elon Musk hater. I think he is a very productive human being, an intelligent human being. And a lot of like the more extreme, violent attitudes that a lot of leftists have is really off-putting.
I can say there are leftists that criticize him for the right things and criticize him for the wrong things. I criticize Elon Musk because he takes taxpayer money and has the state do special favors for him. I mean, if you're a capitalist, then and you look up to him, you understand he's not a self-made man. He comes from money. He exploits his workers, and he would never take the time out of the day, Aaron, to even spit on you if he saw that you were on fire.
See that last comment? It's like I don't get it. Like the hatred.
I mean, it's not hatred, it's just facts, brother. If he's willing to go and rig the market and disobey all the capitalist principles that he pretends to be about, then what does that say about him? It says that he shouldn't be respected because he's a hypocritical man. He's taking billions of taxpayer money from you and I. He's rigging the market. He's part of the problem.
And again, it's not hatred. I just don't.
No, it's not hatred at all. It's facts.
I don't have any sympathy for exploiter class people. Like, you are benefiting off of the death and suffering of others
I disagree with
in a
you on
very
that.
direct way. Like,
I disagree with you on that. I don't hate capitalists. I think capitalism.
I never said that I hate capitalists. I said I don't have any sympathy for them.
You don't think these institutions would have formed and be as successful without him?
No, I don't think that he's needed. I think that all of the produce of things like Tesla and the others are the result of the work that the researchers and the the workers who are producing those goods and services. It's them that does it. He's a dumbass. I'm like, no offense, but like, he's like some of the shit that he's talked about is so asinine that it boggles the brain. Like,
he's definitely a narcissist. You could just tell. You could just definitely tell.
Okay, let me musk you here. Musk
Musk you?
Yeah. So, tell me what the problem with this statement is. You know, we for mass transport, we need to have vacuum tubes where we create little pods and use pressurized air to push them through vacuum tubes.
Well, the pressurized air would break the vacuum.
Yeah, no fucking shit. No fucking shit. You just got musked. You just got musked. That's the kind of shit that this guy talks about. Like this guy's not some fucking genius that everybody likes to make him out to fucking be. He's a goddamn fucking idiot.
I thought they were going to use
sorry,
maglev.
but, like, some of the shit that he talks about is so dumb that like a 5th grader could show you why that's wrong.
You have to understand, Elon Musk has this skill and this articulation that it just sounds with the general ear, and he's able to say things when in reality it's really sick and some.
You're breaking up again.
You're cutting out so bad.
Person without a poor person, and so and so, etc., etc. I don't hate anybody. I would, if I knew somebody was an ANCAP, like in my personal life, I would be best friends with them. Like I would not discriminate. I am against capitalism. That's what I'm against.
See, here's the thing. I have this project, right? And I don't know if you're familiar with it, the Arcology. And I have put so much effort into it, and I've been like the creative force behind it and things like that. And there have been people who have given input and stuff like that, but it's been really an individualistic project. And I can see the value of the individual, and I could see how
agree.
Like teams and success and things like that are often revolving around a single individual.
Okay.
Well,
this is
I would say,
this is my own philosophy, right? I think that that this dichotomy that's been created around collectivism versus individualism is a false one, right?
Yeah.
Because in my view, the greatest expression of individualism and collectivism is to say that the individual should have a say in the decisions that affect them, right? And as well as like in like a team dynamic, like, there's levels of necessary hierarchy that do develop over time, and that the problem isn't necessarily like, that a necessary hierarchy exists. It's when a hierarchy is able to establish itself and cement itself in power over other people. And you need to be able to craft systems that are able to break that down. Because
and I would also say, like, any anarchist should be able to say the foundation of any anarchist society is individualism. Hunter might disagree with me on that, but I mean that's just the truth. The individual makes the collective, if we're going to talk about it in that sense, but it is a false dichotomy. Like,
yeah, that's my take, is that it's a false dichotomy.
Yeah. On that.
Anyway, with that, I'm going to let you guys go. I've been babbling for too long, and I got to try and sleep and rest because I'm very ill. But thank you for being willing to have a discussion with me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, nice meeting you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I hope that you have a good rest of your day, Aaron. Okay?
Yeah, you too.
All right. I'll talk to you later, Nato, okay?
I'll see you later, comrade.
All right. Viva.
Viva la community. Bye-bye. Well, that was fun, right?
Yeah, not too bad. You only got mad for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, honestly, like, it's kind of silly.
Hey, welcome back.
Huh?
You disconnected for a second.
Oh no, I said no. It was definitely a great night with you. Definitely, we had a lot of talking going on and a lot of good discussion, and we ended up agreeing on a good few things too. So
That's interesting. He said that my video made it around.
yeah, he mentioned that to me earlier. He said he got a lot of views. So looks like your work's paying off.
Yeah, I've shared it a bit, so I don't know
Well,
how much of that is viral.
I didn't see you. Why don't you just friend request him? He's a cool guy. Yeah.
Sure.
I'm gonna go to bed though too because I'm starting to get tired as well. But I did have a good night with you. I this was a good time.
Yeah. All right,
And
man.
whoever that is, thanks for listening in.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll have a third debate someday.
Just set it up, man, because I'm trying to actually get that thing going on with the ANCAP versus ANCAM group. Like at first, I was just trying to be funny, but then actually, I was like, hey, it won't be too much of a bad idea. Have something productive for that group for once.
Yeah, talking in circles gets old after a while.
Yeah, absolutely. On top of that, it would be cool to see ANCAPs and ANCOMs be able to agree on some shit, man.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. That's my goal.
Yeah. So, hopefully, our third debate, you'll be able to tell me before I even come on that date, I'm a communist. Kidding. Come on.
Yeah.
All right, you knucklehead. I'll talk to you later.
All right, see ya.